If you are a person of faith, working in a theme park can definitely present some challenges and some opportunities. If you want to pick up a job at a theme park, and you are a person of faith, regardless of which faith it is, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, or others, you're going to be faced with a few challenges as far as working at the parks go. These can range from when you're working, how you're dressed, what you do, and various other things like that. So, how do you work around some of those, and how did I work around some of my challenges? Well, the first thing you're going to be faced with is the time that you work. Pretty much every faith has a day of the week that they spend in worship and prayer. For Christians, of course, we all know it's Sunday. But for Jews, it's on Saturdays. For Muslims, it's on Fridays. And generally, these days end up falling on the weekends, which happens to be the busiest day of the week for theme parks, which causes a problem. In general, the rule is if you're going to get a job at a theme park, you're going to have to work on weekends, which means you're going to be working on the day that you want to go worship and practice your faith. It's going to be a conflict, and there's really not any way around it. So you're kind of faced with a conundrum. You either work at a theme park and work on those days, or you don't. So what did I do? When I was at Busch Gardens, I was actually teaching full-time. So the only thing I could do for them was I could offer myself as a seasonal position. They understood I was a teacher, so I offered 1 day a week or holidays. So I was able to kind of work around it there. When I went to Disney, I actually presented myself as if I was working a second job because I was actually on staff at a church. I was one of the people that helped run it. So I wasn't available on Sundays. Even then, I still got scheduled for them, especially at the beginning when I had no rank and no influence. What I actually ended up doing there was Disney has something called a shift exchange. And when I was scheduled on a Sunday, I posted my shift up as available for somebody else to take, whether we traded shifts or whether they just took it. There was an occasional time when my shift wasn't picked up by somebody else. And since I was an assistant pastor, I wasn't the main guy, I called my pastor and said, "Look, I can't get out of it this Sunday, so I'm going to have to go to work." So there was an occasional time when I did have to go to work on a Sunday. When I came to Silver Dollar City, because I was the lead pastor, again, I made it clear, I've got to be out on Sundays because I'm the dude. I'm the one running the show. Now, when I first started there, we had actually closed the church and it was in the process of remodeling. So it wasn't a big deal for me to work an occasional Sunday here and there. And then other Sundays I was actually out speaking at other churches and traveling around and doing some things. But there was still an occasional Sunday after we got the church reopened where they were like, "Hey, we need you this day." A good example of this is one of our guys was cross-trained in other rides, including the American Plunge. And one of the guys over at the American Plunge actually lost a family member. I think it was his mother that died. So they wanted to pull the one guy from the train on that Sunday so the one guy could take time off to be with his family, which would have left nobody robbing the train. They called me up and say, "Hey, look, we know you're the lead pastor. We know you've got this day off, but here's what's going on. And this guy's family member has died and they want to pull Kevin over there and we've got nobody to rob him." Like, I'm not going to tell this guy he can't go be with his family when they've just died. I will be there. And I found somebody to cover my Sunday, even though it was just a day or two ahead of time, and said, "Look, here's what's going on," and I made arrangements. Yeah, you're still going to have to work. You may be able to present it if you are working physically at an institution like that where you can have another job, but if you're just a regular member in the church, you're going to end up working on those days. That's part of working at a theme park. Silver Dollar City is unusual in that they actually have a church in the park. They have a actual pastor on staff at the park. So before the park opens, they actually have 2 services for the employees. And then on Sundays after the park opens, there's 2 services for guests as well. So you do have an opportunity there to go to services, but that's unusual. Most parks don't have that. In fact, there's only like 3 that I am aware of that do, and it's Silver Dollar City, their sister park in Tennessee, Dollywood, and there's one other one, I believe. Knott's Berry Farm used to. They don't anymore. And again, that's just church. It's not Jewish. It's not Muslim. And so those faiths are the same kind of thing. You got to work. That's just kind of how it is. And sometimes you can work around it, and especially once you've been there a little while, you can use seniority and pick days off. And that's eventually what I did at Disney was once we came around time, we were able to bid on what days we wanted to work. I just looked for a line that had Sundays off, and I took that, and that was my shift. And I ended up working every other day pretty much. That's going to be your first obstacle, your first hurdle, is working around that. The second thing comes when people want to wear things that are part of their faith. Most parks, there's little to no jewelry allowed to be worn while you're working. At Disney, no necklaces, no dangling earrings, which means no little crosses, no Jewish star, nothing at all like that is allowed to be worn where it can be seen by the guests. If you're wearing a necklace, it better be a small one and tucked down in your shirt where nobody can see it. You're not allowed to wear things like that. You're not allowed to wear bracelets. So nothing, again, that could designate your faith. So all those nice little WWJD bracelets and some of those kinds of things, they're no-nos. Not allowed at the park. Even your watches have to be a plain thing. They can't have a picture on the face or anything at all like that. So nothing that's going to give that away. And this actually caused some issues for Disney because among those things was you weren't allowed to wear headdresses. You had to have your face clean shaven. Well, there were some problems with Sikhs who wanted to wear the turbans, and because their religion requires a beard to be grown, it caused a problem. Same thing with some Muslim women that wanted to work at Disneyland, and they were told they couldn't wear their headscarves. And this caused some big-time issues. It's pretty much getting resolved now. It's changed in the last few years, where now this is being allowed, and Disney is actually working with them, which, personally, I think they should have allowed the whole time anyways. Other than that, if it's not something required by your faith, you're not supposed to be wearing it. And so if you have something like an Orthodox Jew, which just by the nature of their faith, they're not going to be working at the parks anyways, but because they are required to wear a certain complete outfit that doesn't fit with the theme of the park, it's not going to work. They wouldn't work on Saturdays anyways. And there's other reasons why they wouldn't work for a theme park. And so you're going to run into that. You have to be able and willing to work within the dress code of the parks. And the parks should respect some aspects of religious dress, but if it's not something that is required by the faith, they don't have to. You're going to have to just deal with that. So if you really like wearing all this stuff to flash your faith around, it's not going to work at the parks. The other big thing, and this is huge, is you'll hear the phrase, no proselytizing, no preaching, no overt signs of faith. You don't run around the park while you're working and go, can I pray for you? Can I pray for you? Or you really should be doing this according to the scripture. You don't do that while you work. And I know this should be a no-brainer, but I watched people at every single job I had at the parks. At some point, somebody came in all excited about their beliefs, and they had to let everybody know about their beliefs constantly, and it got them into trouble, almost assuredly, because one, it's inappropriate, and two, invariably you're going to run into people with different beliefs, and then it causes issues and dissension, and it doesn't go over well. I would then run into people who were like, well, you're a preacher, right? Or a pastor, or a minister, or whatever name they want to stick to me. Why aren't you running around doing it all the time? I'm like, because that's not what the job is. It's not what I'm here for. Now, if you get something like at Silver Dollar City where you have an official park pastor, that's one thing. But even then, he doesn't run around the park all the time preaching. It selects services and, conducting weddings and taking care of the employees and things like that. It's not running around putting a soapbox in the middle of the park and preaching. No. There's a lot of having to work with people with not just different beliefs, but sometimes beliefs that are antagonistic towards what you believe, regardless of what faith or lack of faith you believe in. But it is something to realize that because people have such divergent views, you have to be able to work with people that are different than you. And it's a great opportunity in that regard to kind of realize that people that are different and believe different are still people. They're still nice people and good people and wanted to accomplish great things. And I've seen a few people that they would come in and, again, kind of gung-ho, generally young, But I saw this with a couple older people that had been kind of cloistered in their upbringing, and all of a sudden here was this big wider world, and they kind of went, oh, those people that I hated and didn't like, I actually know some of them now, and you know what? They're not what I thought they were. They're not evil and mean and ready to kill me and me to kill them, and this I actually thought was one of the most fun parts working at the parks. Let me give you an example here. Of course, there's generally a lot of antagonism between the LGBT movement and what they perceive of as Christians being hostile to them. You know, both sides antagonistic towards each other, and a lot of not talking and everything else. But I had a lot of people that, because Disney tends to be a very gay-friendly company and provides benefits for partners and things like that, it's got a larger percentage of people working there from that community than other places were. And so we would be sitting at a table, and I would have people that would find out that I was a minister, and they would immediately kind of go, whoa, wait a minute. Aren't you, though, supposed to be acting like this and like that? And I'm going, don't see me acting that way, do you? I'm not saying anything. I'm not being mean. I'm treating you like a normal person. And they kind of went, wow, that's possible? And I would see people from the other perspective, too, come in and go, wait, they're nice? We had a wonderful person who was one of our photographers who was Muslim. Again, there's all these stereotypes there. And it was neat to see the bridges being built while they said, here's what I actually believe. Here's what I am. And they went, wow. I actually heard somebody say to them, I don't like Muslims, but I like you. It kind of was helping them break down those stereotypes. And that was one of the things I actually really liked, was you took all these people that they would think in stereotypes, and you would actually put them together, and they could begin to break those down and begin to come to an understanding and discussion and build friendships. And that was an amazing thing to be able to see and to be a part of. I absolutely love that part. I love the fact, for me personally, my faith and the general statement of faith to love your neighbor as yourself, to treat other people the way they wanted to be treated, well, gee, that's a motivating factor for the way I want to work anyways. So I didn't have any problem with the, go above and beyond and make memories worth repeating and those kinds of things, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Hey, show courtesy to everybody. Duh, that's part of what I am. What I should be, at least. In that regard, too, it was actually kind of fun to be able to see how the park statements and their motivating statements and everything that they try to teach you to do, and I'm just kind of sitting there going, okay, for people of faith, this should be normal. Because pretty much every faith has some sort of belief statement along the same lines of treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's a fairly universal thing, and so as a person of faith, it should actually make you better at that job because of that. Did you learn something new? Did you know this already? Did you have more questions about it? I would love to hear it. Please share it in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and share the video too. Check that description too. There is a ton of information there. Check that out, including information about my patrons and my supporters, who are huge for me, and I can't thank them enough. In fact, I actually want to thank 2 new ones that have just signed on in the last week and a half. So a big thank you to Marsha Jackson, and also a huge thank you to KH Fanatic. That wouldn't be Kingdom Hearts, would it? So thank you so much to them. If you want to know more about that, you'll find links down below in the description as well. Thank you so incredibly much for watching, and God bless. Being a person of faith myself, okay, no, I am, but pretty much every faith has a certain, oh my goodness, for Muslims, for what? I don't know what that was. Well, when I was at Busch Gardens, I was, oh my, most parks, there's no jewelry around. Yeah, okay. But there's a lot of antagonism. scratch that whole bit. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to know about contact information, fan pages, merchandise, and more, please be sure to check the description below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to know when I have new ones, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button right up there. And if you want to see another one of my videos, well, I've got a great one for you right here. And a huge thank you to these wonderful people here who support me on Patreon and with YouTube memberships. They get behind the scenes information, special perks, and more. If you'd like to know more about that, well, make sure you check that button right there. Thank you so much.